Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of breaking news. I told you guys we were going to have a lot as we got closer to the hearing. This new judge is being a lot more transparent about things. So let's talk about our show today. We have a great show for you guys.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
So come on in, let's get started. Okay, so let's go over everything we have to talk about. I had a completely different show planned. I still am doing some of the show that I had planned, but some of it will have to wait till next time. So we're going to be discussing the 911 call, talking about new DNA evidence that Ann Taylor and Bryan Kohberger's defense team does not want the jury to see. We're going to talk about the new suspect vehicle information. Will this exonerate Bryan? We're going to talk about new information about that's just come to light about when Bryan Kohberger was actually diagnosed with autism, and new rulings by the trial judge. Whoa, hold on one second. I was on getting a link to share on my Facebook page. Sorry, and I left it on. Okay, so my name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do, because we have so much breaking news. In this case, I have multiple things breaking. Plus, I had a whole show planned. I'll just see how much I have. 10 packages prepared. I don't know if we're going to get through all of it, but we're going to get through all the breaking news. That's our priority. We're going to start with that. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell, because I think it's going to be like this from now until we get to the trial. I also want to say thank you to our producers, and Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown Pepper, and Lisa Fazio. And thank you to our channel members. I could not be doing shows like this without you guys, so thank you so much. If you would like your name to appear just like this in all of my live streams and shows, hit the join button. It's right next door to the subscribe button. And subscribing is free. And I think the channel membership is just a couple of dollars. So, and thank you. I just want to do super thanks and coffee gratitude from the last couple of live streams. Thank you so much for your generosity. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships, and Jazz, Kami, and Pepper. Okay, so let's dig into it. I'm going to check in with chat, but let's get started as people come in. So I'm talking about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger. He is innocent and guilty, but because it's his defense team filing motions, which I have some new motions to share with you also, because he's the one on trial, I do have to talk about this case in terms of him. But I want to make it very clear that Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty. So we're going to start, obviously, with the DNA evidence found under Maddie's fingernails. And then we're going to talk about new video footage of a suspect's car. Will this exonerate Bryan Kohberger? Will this implicate? Let's start with and then we're going to talk about the 911 call. So let's start with Maddie. Okay. Make sure, let me move myself out of the way. All right. So I have 10 packages open. I'm just like struggling to find all my stuff that I need. Okay. I have never seen a day like this. Okay, let me go ahead and start with this. Okay, so in bombshell new court filings in the case against Bryan Kohberger has revealed DNA from not one, not two, but 3 different individuals. It was found underneath the fingernails of Maddie Mogen. So in the court document, which was filed on February 24th, but it wasn't unsealed until last night, BK's defense team is revealing that testing of Maddie's left fingernail clippings unearthed DNA evidence from 3 unknown individuals. So this is really interesting. So part of the document was redacted, which means that's just a fancy way of saying we can't see whole document. But we know that we don't know exactly what's there, but we have some really good clues. So Ann Taylor wants this DNA evidence suppressed. And remember, if it's good for Bryan Kohberger, Ann Taylor, his defense attorney, wants it to come in. If it's bad for Bryan Kohberger, then Ann Taylor and his defense team want it suppressed. They don't want the jury to see it. So in this case, Ann Taylor does want this DNA evidence suppressed. So let's talk about this. Because like I said, and then we're going to go into the car evidence, because does this exonerate Bryan Kohberger? Okay, so the defense indicates that the comparison to Bryan Kohberger's DNA was inconclusive. So there was more DNA besides just the knife sheath. Now, this is Ann Taylor saying that it's inconclusive. This is not the prosecution saying that it's inconclusive. This is not the judge that's saying that it's inconclusive. This is Ann Taylor that's saying this. But, I guess my question is, if it's inconclusive, wouldn't that help Bryan Kohberger? Why not let it in? I'm wondering if there's a little bit more to this than what we know. But this is the first time that we've learned that there could be additional DNA from the crime scene. So not just the knife sheath snap. And it makes me wonder if there's other DNA evidence that we don't know about yet. So let's talk about this. Let's dive into this. And then we're going to talk about the car. Ann Taylor feels like this exonerates Bryan Kohberger. And let's look at it. We'll look at that next. And then we're going to go through the 911 call. Okay, but I want to talk about the DNA. So the critical part of the case, and please don't hate the messenger if you are, supporting whichever side. I'm just bringing you all of the information. This is a Critical Thinkers channel so that you guys can make up your own mind in the case. So a critical part of the case, we know came from the snap on that brown knife sheath. And we know Ann Taylor was working really hard to keep the IgG out, because then she could keep all of the other, what she's calling fruit of the poisonous tree, out. So we knew about the touch DNA, which was matched to a buccal swab, a cheek swab from Bryan Kohberger after he was arrested with a warrant. Now, in this new court filing, the defense is asking the judge to limit testimony about the DNA analysis of Maddie Mogen's fingernail scrapings. So she doesn't want all the testimony to come in about this. She says, she's claiming, I'm not saying if she's right or wrong, but she's claiming that it would violate BK's right to a fair trial. Now, during the grand jury proceedings, the court heard testimony that a 3-person mixture had been found in Maddie's fingernail clippings. This isn't totally surprising, because I do think that Maddie and Kaylee would have fought back. It says, quote, the DNA from the sample that was and this was redacted. The DNA from the sample that was, and this is redacted, we don't know, as to Mr. Kohberger, this is what the document reads, the statistical likelihood that Bryan Kohberger is one of the 3 individuals whose DNA was found on the clippings is also redacted. So we know that there are statistics. There are statistics about this DNA. What statistic that the prosecution wants to bring in that it matches Bryan Kohberger? Is it 90%? Is it 95%? Is it 1 in a million, 1 in a billion? Or is it the same as the cheek swab, 1 in octillion? We don't know. We may have to wait till the trial to find out, unless the judge decides to open this out. The filing details that the witness testified about the meaning of the term inconclusive. Okay, interesting. So BK's defense team is arguing that this testimony used, quote, misleading language. You can see why the judge initially sealed this if he didn't know, what was going to come out during this. Let me move myself over here. Okay. So I get why he was sealing this initially. I am going to check in with chat, but I want to get through the breaking news. And I have so much breaking news right now. Okay. So let's continue on. I'm trying to get back to where I was. I have too many files, I think, opened, but we have to go through all the breaking news. So we're just going to get through all of it together. So hang on there with me, bear with me. Okay. So Ann Taylor and the defense team is arguing that this testimony used misleading language, and that LR's likely ratios are different from traditional statistics that courts and juries are used to seeing and hearing. Now, this is according to Ann Taylor. This is, Ann Taylor also claimed, and I'm not saying everything Ann Taylor claimed was wrong, but she's also claimed that law enforcement needed a warrant to do a search of the 1122 King Road crime scene. So, I take everything that Ann Taylor says now, I take it and I bring it to you, but it is coming from the defense. So of course she's going to frame this in a way that benefits Bryan Kohberger, and the prosecution is going to frame this in a way that benefits the prosecution. So I just want to be clear about that. But so this is Ann Taylor saying it. The likelihood ratios, traditional statistics that courts and juries are used to seeing and hearing. The likelihood ratios is a comparison of a hypothesis. It is not statement of identity or probability of identity. It simply asks the question, given the data, which hypothesis tested more likely? So it sounds like it was not good for Bryan Kohberger, because if it was good, she'd let it in. She doesn't want the jury to see this. So statistically, it was assumed that Maddie Mogen was one of the three individuals. So it sounds like her problem is with who they're saying that, that Maddie would have had her own DNA under her fingernails. And of course she would. If your fingernails touch your finger. So of course you would have your own DNA on there. So she's upset that statistically that law enforcement or the lab that tested this assumed that Maddie was one of the three individuals. Okay. Don't hate the messenger. I'm just going to bring it to you. Two hypotheses were then tested. So they ruled out Maddie, because of course she would have her own DNA. Your fingernails touch your fingers. Of course it has your DNA on it. Two hypotheses were then tested that the three people, including Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, and one unknown related person to either Maddie Mogen or two unrelated persons. And so this is what the filing says. This is Ann Taylor and the defense team saying this. All of these individuals sit in the same shoes as Mr. Kohberger, namely that the LR is exclusionary, but falls in the range of inconclusive. This is according to Ann Taylor. Focusing on Bryan Kohberger's DNA being inconclusive would mislead the jury at his trial, the defense argues. So she feels like that focusing on Bryan Kohberger's DNA being inconclusive. So she's the one that's saying it's inconclusive. Okay. Expanding beyond the language of the report would prejudice Mr. Kohberger in that it might allow the jury to infer that the inconclusive data would mean that he might be included. But remember, all she's told us is that Maddie Mogen, that she's upset that Maddie Mogen was listed as one of the three people, that was assumed, that she would have her own DNA on her own fingernails. And of course she would. So I don't know, you guys. The legal team, this is Bryan Kohberger's legal team, also argued that additional testing, since carried out by the defense, has now excluded Bryan Kohberger as the source of the DNA. So it sounds like the prosecution, when their lab tested it, included it. But Ann Taylor is saying that when they tested it, it excluded Bryan Kohberger. The new details about the DNA evidence was revealed in a flurry of new court documents filed by both the defense and the prosecution. And as we, get closer, as Kohberger's high-profile capital case, I'm watching my words, trial looms. So in another series of motions, Ann Taylor made a string of other requests to block words. She doesn't want the M word in. She doesn't want bushy eyebrows in. I don't think that dog's going to hunt. I don't think the M is going to hunt either. This is a capital case. She wants psychopath and sociopath to be excluded. I don't know what the judge is going to think about that, but the bushy eyebrows is going to come in. So according to Ann Taylor and the defense team, she feels like using the M word, murdered, M, I'm watching my words in case you have little ones in the room, and similar words would be unfairly prejudicial to Bryan Kohberger. She says, so the judge gets to decide this. I don't get to decide this. We don't get to decide this. The judge wants to decide this. Don't use that word. If you use that word, you'll be filtered out. I won't get to see your comment. But do you think that so we'll go to the bushy eyebrows. Do you think that the prosecution should be allowed to use the word bushy eyebrows in the trial Yes or no. Put yes in the chat if you think that the prosecution should be allowed to use the word bushy eyebrows, or is that going to unfairly prejudice the jury? Put a no in the chat if you think that the prosecution should not be allowed to use the word bushy eyebrows. And we'll leave, don't put the M word in the chat at all, because it'll get filtered out. Whether these crimes, I'm watching my words, it's illings, okay, at issue are M, as allegedly committed by Bryan Kohberger, or an alternate suspect or someone who is still unknown is the statement at issue. This is according to Ann Taylor. To label Mr. Kohberger as an M, the alleged weapon consistent with an empty sheath as a M weapon. So she doesn't even want the prosecution to be allowed to call this weapon. So there's that. I don't think that dog's going to hunt with this judge, because I think this is, going to be called what it is. Well, we'll see what the judge decides. I don't get to decide this. I'm just telling you my feeling about this, what I believe the judge is going to do, just based on what I've seen him in other things. But she's going to try, she's doing a great job defending him. But let me know what you think about the bushy eyebrows. Okay, so to label Mr. Kohberger as an M, the alleged weapon consistent with an empty sheath as an M, watching my words here, weapon is to assert that any of the four decedents was M'd by Mr. Kohberger denies his right to a fair trial and the right to be presumed innocent. This is according to Ann Taylor, the defense. And she refers to the victims as decedents, which I don't know. I guess that's, we're getting buckle up, guys. We're getting into, this is the kind of stuff that we're, all these motions is going to be like this all the way till we get to the trial. Now, in a separate filing, she also asked the judge to ban the terms psychopath and sociopath, calling these unequivocally unfairly prejudicial. Okay. The defense is also asking the judge to block any evidence referring to the bushy eyebrows or from surviving roommate Dylan using those words to identify Bryan Kohberger. I don't think that dog is going to hunt. I think the judge is going to let Dylan's testimony come in. Ann Taylor can certainly go after Dylan. She, can talk about the drinking. She can talk, she can cross-examine her. And we're going to talk more about Dylan and Bethany on the 911 call. And we're going to be talking about the vehicle that may exonerate, or, well, maybe it will implicate Bryan. But Ann Taylor, we'll see what she wants to do with it. So the two other roommates, that's Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, lived with Kaylee, Maddie, Xana at the 1122 King Road house, and they were in the house at the time, but they survived. Now, we know Dylan was on the second floor. We know she came face to face with a man that she described as a man dressed all in black with bushy eyebrows, wearing a mask, around 6 feet tall or taller, who was athletic but not muscular. She told investigators she had been woken around 4 a.m. She also said she heard what sounded like whimpering coming from Xana's room and a man saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And then the third time she said she peeked out 3 times, a man with bushy eyebrows dressed in black walked past her door and head toward the sliding glass door. So the one, Ann Taylor doesn't want the words bushy eyebrows coming into the trial. I think the judge is not going to grant that, but let me know if you feel differently. Around 8 hours later, the 911 call, and we're going to talk about this 911 call, came from Bethany Funk's cell phone, and this was after Ethan's friends came over. So if a lot of people said that the roommates called all their friends over. No, they did not. Ethan's friends had been trying to reach him on the cell phone. And when Ethan didn't answer, because of course he was gone, he was no longer with us, then his friends came over looking for him because they had plans with him that day. And they figured, they had seen him the night before at the party with Xana. They figured he spent the night with Xana. They woke up Bethany knocking on the door because remember, she was sleeping on the first floor. And that's when they went upstairs and they saw the crime scene. And they used Bethany's cell phone to call 911. So according to Ann Taylor's defense, the description provided by DM, that's Dylan, is unreliable and should be excluded from the trial. The judge already ruled on that. It's coming in. The legal team also, let's see, what else did Ann say? Taylor said, she also said she never identified Mr. Kohberger. And the judge again said it doesn't matter. He had a mask on. So of course, she's not going to identify him in the lineup. But Ann Taylor did try to exclude Dylan Mortensen from taking the witness stand. And so now that didn't work because the judge said, no, she can take the stand. You can cross-examine her, but she's going to take the stand. And now Ann Taylor doesn't want Dylan to describe bushy eyebrows. She doesn't want her to be allowed to say that. I don't think the judge is going to go for that either. Ann Taylor thinks this would be as damning as describing bushy eyebrows while Mr. Kohberger sits as the accused at the trial will be as damning as her. He is the man that did this, the defense argues. Now, if Dylan could identify him, she would be allowed to testify that she believes that the defendant is, but that's not, from what it sounds like, what she's testifying to. She's just going to testify to what she said. She did not recognize Bryan Kohberger. Ann Taylor wanted to have her testimony thrown out on that basis. And we're going to talk about the vehicle next. And then we're going to talk about the 911 call. So please stay with me. But the defense claims that there are some inconsistencies in Dylan's description of the masked intruder. And she can cross-examine. She can cross-examine Dylan on this. The legal team, this is the defense team, points out that artwork seen on the student's bedroom walls, many of which she had drawn, included many pictures of eyes with prominent eyebrows. Okay. Some of the eyebrows are heavy, voluminous, and puffy, or perhaps suggestively bushy, the defense says. Dylan, so if she had a thing for eyebrows and that's all she could see because the intruder was wearing a mask and she could just see the eyebrows. To me, the fact that she had pictures of the eyebrows makes it more likely that she's telling me the truth, that she's telling the truth of what she saw. She didn't say she saw Bryan. I don't think, I think if she would have been able to say that, I think it would have been a lot better. I don't think she's making stuff up. But let's get into where Ann Taylor can cross-examine Dylan, because she also told investigators that she, quote, had a lot of lucid dreams of being kidnapped or chased, and that on the morning of November 13th of 2022, she did not fully understand what was a dream and what was not. This is according to Ann Taylor. Now, the judge has already said Dylan's testimony is coming in. He's already ruled on that. So Ann Taylor lost that motion. Now, we're also going to talk about the autism. We're also going to talk about the autism because I have some new information on that and when the diagnosis occurred, because a lot of people have been asking. So I did do some checking and I'll just share with you that next. Let's get into the vehicle next. Okay. Let me. I have like way too many things open, and it's all right. Let's get into this next. Let me move myself out of the way. I think I can just be like right there. Okay. All right. So this is Ann Taylor's motion on the vehicle. Now I feel like, whoa. Hold on. Let me try one more time. Oh my gosh, did I just close my motion? No. Let me get it. Let me get it. I have it right here. Okay. All right. Let me re-pull that back up. Looks like I closed it by mistake. Okay. So this is the motion. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Yeah, we are. I am going to check in with chat. Come in and tell me where you're from, guys. We're going to get into the motion on the vehicle next. We're going to talk about that. So if you haven't subscribed, it's going to be like this all the way up till the trial. So, please feel free to subscribe. This is our head mod and Jess. Thank you for modding today. Thank you for modding today, Leslie. This is our other head mod, Brother Mike. Thank you for modding today. Thank you for modding today, DM. Welcome, Sue Joy. Come on in, guys. Wicked's here. Thank you so much for modding. Princess Elsa is here modding. Thank you so much. So, yeah, please give this a thumbs up. And watch your language in the chat. And we're going to go through this motion. Then we're going to talk about the 911 call. We have a lot to go through. So the court TV is reporting DNA on the fingernails. Yep, we just talked about that in detail. I'm assuming that got posted before I talked about it. Hey, Lenora, tell me where you guys are from. Meme is here. I wasn't that interested in this case before, but you got me interested. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're into it. It's one of the most interesting cases I have ever come across. It's right up there as probably going to go down as one of the biggest trials in the history of the United States. Hi, Dabs. So let's see. Lisa, looking forward to this. Vet girl. Oh, it looks like people were in here before I even got in here. Thank you so much to Brother Mike for the super sticker. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I am going to put that toward the computer fund. And thank you so much to NJAS for gifting a Reporter Room membership. If you got a Reporter Room membership, let me know who you are. And thank you so much to NJAS. Okay. Steve is here. We're going to have a good day. We have a lot of great people in the chat. Holly's here. Hi, Holly. All right. Top Cat says, Ann Taylor has been known to spin the evidence like a top, so I take what she says with a grain of salt. Hi, Pam. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Thanks for modding today, Pam. Hide down a dark alley. Kami says, yes, but his DNA on the sheath and now under her nails, both places it shouldn't be. He's toast. She's grasping at straws. I think this is a problem. That's why she doesn't want to let it in. I think it is a problem for Ann Taylor I think it is a problem that his, DNA, that what it sounds like she's complaining on the DNA. And then we're going to get into the vehicle, because is this going to exonerate or implicate Bryan Kohberger? But for what it sounds like on the DNA, it sounds like her complaint is that they decided that one of the 3 DNA samples belonged to Maddie. And to me, if that's all she's got, that they assumed that one of the 3 DNA samples belonged to Maddie, I don't think she's going to keep that DNA that was on Maddie's fingernail clippings out of evidence, because of course her own DNA would be on it. I mean, look where your fingernails are. They're on your body. So of course, and the fingernails themselves would have DNA, with them. So of course it's logical to assume one of the 3 was DNA. Now, Ann Taylor's saying that her DNA evidence is going to exonerate Bryan Kohberger. So I guess my question is, if it's going to exonerate him, why are you keeping it? Why would you not want to let it in? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Diana says, how would BK's DNA get there? Exactly. So, I wondered, we knew about the DNA on the knife sheath, but I had wondered, because that was put out so early on, if there was any other DNA at the, on the victims, or, we still don't know about the hairs that were found in his apartment, the dog hair, the animal hair. We haven't heard anything about that. So there's a lot of information that we haven't heard yet. So, I think that we're going to be finding out more and more, because the judge also has said he's over all of these people, all of the attorneys sealing everything. He wants it unsealed. So Pam, thank you. Pam says, thank you to you, NJAS, for the gifted channel membership. And says, congratulations, Pam, you are now a channel member. And we do channel members only live streams. You're welcome to start going through those. Hi, CJK. Meme says, how convenient BK's team finds it different from the prosecution. What a surprise. Well, I mean, I think it's fair. They're going to do their own testing. They're not going to just put in the prosecution testing. So I think that's fair. And then they can cross-examine. This is what I think the judge is going to decide as far as DNA. I don't think he's going to throw it out, because they assumed that one of the 3 DNAs belonged to Maddie. Of course, one of the 3 I mean, that's just common sense, belonged to Maddie. I don't think that's going to be grounds. But Ann Taylor has to try to, do something. But what may be allowed is the prosecution can present their DNA evidence, and Ann Taylor can present hers, and then they can cross-examine, each other's witnesses. So I think we could do something like that. PJ, hi, Marilyn, Sam. Mike says yes. Okay, so let's see. If you think bushy eyebrows should be allowed to come in, and the jury should be allowed to hear the words bushy eyebrows, tell me yes if you, in the comment section below or in the top chat. If you think that bushy eyebrows, you think that Ann Taylor's motion to not allow the words bushy eyebrows come into the trial should be granted, and we should, and the prosecution should not be, or and none of the witnesses should be allowed to utter the words bushy eyebrows, put a no in the chat. Mike says yes. Steve says yes. Wicked says yes. Deborah says yes. Sleuth and Mama says yes. Lisa says yes. Hey, Jeff. Jeff says yes. Holly says yes. Top Cat says yes. Okay, haven't seen any no's. Leslie, Esmeralda, DM, and Auburn and Juanita all say yes. Sue Joy says yes. Meme says yes. Of course, they should be allowed to give a description of the suspect. Yes, 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 yes. And I'm going to be doing a live stream on the Sebastian Rogers case right after this. DM says, if you don't want to be prejudiced, don't commit this type of crime. Diana says yes. And Jazz welcomes Diana Joe Rice and Diana Yont. Sleuth and Mama 91 says, I think he should be listed as what he is accused of. Wicked says, the judge is going to put a leash on that dog. Leslie said, this is an unalived trial. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you can have a capital case and not use the M word. Don't use it in the chat, though, guys. You'll get filtered out. I won't see your comment, and then you'll be like, oh, they timed me out. No, we didn't time you out. It's just YouTube doesn't like words like that. Please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know we're doing a G-rated show. Anne is pulling it all out. Yeah, she's trying everything. So the mom thinks Anne knows her client is guilty. Pam says Anne is trying. Pepper says, hey, it's good to see you. That's the Sebastian Rogers starts at 7:30, and then this one is started at 6. Top Cat said most of these motions sound like desperation by Ann Taylor, in my opinion. Brother Mike says Ann Taylor is trying everything and anything she can. And please, I'm just reading other people's opinions. Please don't get, people get mad at me in the comment section. Oh, I'm interacting with the chat. So we're going to talk about Ann Taylor's motion in the car, and I'm going to go through it, and then we'll, talk about what it means. Pam wishes Ann Taylor would just stop smiling. Marilyn says, it seems like he is getting a much better defense than the average person could even afford. I do think she's an excellent attorney. So I didn't see any no's in that. So it sounds like everybody just agrees that the bushy eyebrows should come in. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is this vehicle. The vehicle at 1122 King Road. And let me show you where that is really quick. Okay. So you can see on Google Maps, I just want to just kind of give you an overview where the 1122 King Road is. Okay. And then and then we have the 111 right here. Okay. So this is the house where one of the cameras picked up footage. It's not the only camera footage, but this is the footage that Ann Taylor's talking about. So I just want you to have just a sense of where it is in proximity to the crimes. And Ann Taylor does not want the jury to see this. Okay, so this is what her motion is, and this is the image that she's showing, this one. And we'll look at those together in just a second. So this is Ann Taylor, Alyssa Mathos, Bicca Barlow. Okay, so she says, comes now Bryan C. Kohberger by and through his attorneys of record hereby move this honorable court to exclude. Remember, if it's good for Bryan Kohberger, she wants to let it in. If it's bad for Bryan Kohberger, she doesn't want it in. But in this case, let's just see what she says about this. So she says she wants to exclude the trial testimony by any state witness as to make the model of the vehicle seen on the 1112, that's where I just showed you on the Google Maps. So that's this property right here. Okay, 1112. All right, so let me grab the motion. Okay. So she wants the 11112 King Road surveillance footage. This motion is made pursuant to IRE 103, 104, 404, 402, 403, and 702, and further based upon Mr. Kohberger's rights. Motion in limine number 12, make and model of suspect vehicle. Okay. So, and then she talks about the United States Constitution. She says, pursuant to IRE 103, 104, this court is required to the extent possible to limit a jury's exposure to inadmissible evidence. So she's saying this evidence is inadmissible and that the court's required to limit it. The state has claimed in various filings and reports that an FBI forensic examiner, Anthony Imel, I think it's Imel, identified the make and model of this vehicle seen driving in the area of 1122 King Road in the early hours of November 13th of 2022. The state has referred to this as suspect vehicle 1. The vehicle was not identified, and we're going to talk about the 911. Oh gosh, I have other stuff too. But we're going to talk about Dylan, and we're going to talk about, when was Bryan diagnosed with autism? We're going to do that. We'll do that one next. Okay, so please stay with me. So the state has claimed in various filings and reports that the FBI examiner, Anthony Imel, identified the make and model of this vehicle seen in the area of 1122 King Road in the hours of November 13th of 2022. The state has referred to this as suspect vehicle 1. The vehicle was not identified from surveillance footage in the area of the 1122 King Road house. So she's saying that because it was picked up on a neighbor's camera. So the vehicle was not identified from surveillance footage in the area of 1122 King Road house. Well, I just showed you that it is in the area. So it's right there. There's 1112. So not really sure what she's trying to say here, but let's continue on together. So this first image is the surveillance video. Remember, we're not seeing the whole video. All we're seeing is a snapshot chosen by Ann Taylor and the defense team. So did she cherry pick out her snapshot? Or is this, what the whole video looks like? The surveillance video comes from a residence at 1112 King Road. It depicts the corner of King and Queen Roads. And from that footage, lights from the vehicle can be seen on Walenda Road, a north-south roadway next to the neighborhood. Here's the other picture that she's got. Again, she's cherry picking out the images that she wants to show. And that's fine. Of course, she's going to do everything she can to protect Bryan Kohberger. She's a good lawyer. But she says these photos are from the 1112 King Road camera. I think that's okay. The special agent Imel did not make a vehicle identification. The special agent Imel did not make a vehicle identification. And I don't know what this sentence is supposed to mean. It just doesn't make sense. I've read it over and over before I went live. The special agent Imel did not make a vehicle identification. Was not made from this footage. So that sentence doesn't make sense unless there's supposed to be like an and. Let's read it with the and. Special agent Imel did not make a vehicle identification and was not made from this footage. So I'm not sure what this second half is. She's probably going to have to clarify that for the judge as well. Rather, as noted in emails between Mr. Imel and the FBI agent, Edward Jacobson, it's clear that the identification of the make and model of the vehicle in this video was made via a separate video taken at the 1125 Ridge Road. All right, let's type that in. Okay. So there's the 1125 Ridge Road. So to here. So to me, it just looks like this was this way, Cameron. But okay, let's continue on. Let me let's go back to the motion. Okay, so she's saying the make and model of this vehicle in the video was made via us at the 1125 Ridge Road. And then she showed, oh, sounds like whatever this agent got, this FBI agent got, he thought it was really a good image of the car. She says, quote, there is no continuous footage linking the vehicle at the 1122 King Road footage and that from Ridge Road. So her complaint is that the video footage is not continuous. And to me, of course it's not continuous. He would be picked up by different CCTV. The vehicle would be picked up by different CCTV cameras, as he made his way from Pullman. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty, to Moscow, Idaho, to the 1122 King Road house. Of course, it's not continuous. They didn't have a drone, filming the car as he rode in. Of course, it's going to be different cameras. I mean, we knew that. But I told you I thought the CCTV was going to be a problem for the defense team. And I think geofencing is also going to be a problem. But additional surveillance footage depicts vehicles not identifiable vehicles. Well, it sounds like the FBI agent who says, got a great one, felt like they found something on that image that clearly identifies that Hyundai Elantra. But let's continue on and see what Ann Taylor wants. Because remember, if it's good for the defense, she wants it to come in. If it's bad for the defense, she wants to keep it out. In this case, she wants it kept out. She says, thus, labeling the car from various bits of footage as the same vehicle is speculative. I mean, I don't think the judge is going to exclude this image. And it just makes me wonder if there's something in this image that the FBI got. He says, got a great one right here, got a great one. If there's something on this that and I told you, I thought they were going to be able to clearly show that it was Bryan Kohberger's car. And it sounds like that's what happened. And that's probably why she doesn't want this in. Let me know if you have a different opinion in the comment section below. He is innocent until proven guilty, but don't going through it, through this information. So sure. From road. So of course, to me, it's like, of course there's not continuous footage. She says additional surveillance footage depicts vehicles, but not identifiable vehicles. Well, I think the jury should be allowed to decide that. If she really feels like it's not identifiable, then why not let it in? Because that helps her case, right? That helps her case. So thus labeling the cars from various bits of footage as the same vehicle is speculative. Mr. Kohberger seeks an order prohibiting the state linking vehicle identification of the make and model of the vehicle in the 1122 King Road video based on identification of the car at the 1125 Ridge Road and referring to the vehicles as suspect vehicle 1. Okay, so just to make it clear, Ann Taylor is arguing that because the videos were taken from two different cameras, and probably more cameras than that. Obviously, there's something on this 1112 video that clearly identifies the vehicle as belonging to Bryan Kohberger. Remember, I told you during that hearing, she messed up and she said, Bryan's car. And I showed it to you. If you haven't seen that video, watch it. You can see Ann Taylor slip up and admit that it's Bryan's car in a hearing. And I also see that she's saying Mr. Kohberger seeks an order. And I'm just wondering if he asked her to do this. Because I don't think this is going to work. Of course, there's not going to be continuous video footage. Law enforcement didn't know in advance he was going to commit these crimes. They didn't have a drone following him. So she says, she's calling it the speculative nature of testifying that the vehicle is the same vehicle renders it irrelevant to these proceedings, far more unfairly prejudicial than probative. This is also a jury question, and testimony calling the two vehicles the same invades the province of the jury. Thus, this court should exclude testimony linking the two vehicles same. So, law enforcement says, this is all we know. We don't have the whole email. Got a great one. And obviously it's something that clearly identifies the vehicle as Bryan Kohberger. And what she wants to argue is that the vehicle, tell me what you guys think about this. Should the jury be allowed to decide? So what she's saying, let me put this in, is that the jury should not be allowed to make their own determination of this. She doesn't want it to be allowed to say the same vehicle. But look at where these cameras are, guys. Look at here's the 1122 King Road house, was right here. It's not here now. And this is the 1112 King Road house. And then the 11225 house camera would have showed him is right here at this house, and it would have showed him either coming this way or right there. So I don't think this dog is going to hunt. Let me know what you think the judge will decide in this. I hope I've gone through that thoroughly enough for you guys. Let's get into the next one because there's so much to unpack on this. Okay, so she wants the car footage that clearly identifies Bryan Kohberger's. She wants that eliminated. All right, so let's talk about Bryan Kohberger's autism diagnosis. So, let's get into that. Okay, so let me pull this up next. And then we're going to talk about the 911 call. Let me grab this. Oh, and then we're going to talk about a new motion. All right. I didn't have a choice. There was like so much going on. Okay, so let's talk about when was this diagnosis made? We got some clues here. Okay. Let's go through this. My sourcing on this is the Idaho Statesman. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger has autism. That's not breaking news. We already knew that. His attorney says that she wants to use this diagnosis to remove the capital punishment. And the Idaho Statesman says, in BK's latest attempt to avoid capital punishment, I'm watching my words, they use DP. His attorneys confirm in a new court filing that the 30-year-old has autism, which they argue exposes him to the unacceptable risk that he'll be wrongly convicted of M and sentenced to capital punishment. Now, we have some clues as to when this diagnosis was in this article. So let's unpack this together because I think we can. I was wondering if this was like from high school. Was this from childhood? Was this because his mom was a special needs teacher? We got some clues here. In the 28-page motion unsealed on Tuesday, Ann Taylor argued that sentencing BK, and I'm watching my words, charged with 4 counts of first-degree M to capital punishment, if he's found guilty, would violate his 8th Amendment right to be free from excessive punishment because of autism spectrum disorder. She says, quote, in this case where jurors will be forced to determine whether Mr. Kohberger will live or not, I'm watching my words, Mr. Kohberger himself is essentially a piece of evidence to be examined and evaluated. Every movement and expression is subject to analysis, wrote Ann Taylor. This is, his odd facial expressions, is something that a lot of us have talked about. A lot of people have, just described him as creepy and weird. And she, already won a motion in the Latah County to have the cameras not be able to zoom in on Bryan Kohberger, which I think is fair. So she already has tried and failed to get capital punishment off the table on the grounds that it's unconstitutional and it breaks with the evolving standard of decency and is arbitrarily applied. So judge already said, no, that dog isn't going to hunt. He's been charged. So this is what she's saying now. This is her latest try. And, you got to hand it to her for trying. She is throwing everything, all the spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And I think she's doing a great job representing Bryan Kohberger. So she says, and we're going to talk about the 911 call next. And then we're going to talk about the judge's latest rulings after that. So lots of breaking news today. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because it's going to be like this between now and the trial. This judge it does not want everything super secret. He's done with that. The defense and prosecution can redact what they want, but he's letting it let us see. Because I think if you don't want to have what happened in the Delphi case, where we had so many people speculating what was true and what was not true, then, be transparent. And I think that's the right choice. Mr. Kohberger's, so this is Ann Taylor writing this. Mr. Kohberger's autism spectrum disorder prevents him from being sentenced to capital punishment. She used the D word in a manner that accords with constitutional requirements of proportionality and reliability. So he was evaluated by a neurophysiologist. All right, so let's unpack this. We get some clues of when this happened. So he was evaluated by a neurophysiologist, psychologist. Oh, I can't. I'm sorry. You ever have like one of those dreams where no matter how hard you try to say something, you can't get it out? This is like my dream. This is like my nightmare right now. Okay, neuropsychologist. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself, not at this. Okay. So Bryan Kohberger's disorder has a significant impact on his life, according to a comprehensive neurological evaluation conducted by Rachel Orr, a New Hampshire-based neuropsychologist. So she says autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability that is caused by differences in the brain, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. People with autism tend to have problems with social communication and interaction and restricted or repetitive behaviors. The filing says that Bryan Kohberger exhibits, quote, all the core diagnostic ability to understand people's reactions and difficulty identifying the emotional or mental state of others or how to respond appropriately. Okay. And it continues. While autism isn't an intellectual disability, though some people have both, Ann Taylor is arguing that the disability shares similarities, especially in regards to prior court findings over the elimination of the DP, capital punishment. So just in going through this, it sounds like this was recent. This doesn't sound like he was diagnosed with this in childhood. It sounds like this is a recent diagnosis. Now, let's continue on. Let me know if you think something different. If you think this is recent, put recent in the chat or comment section. If you think this is from childhood, then put childhood in the chat or in the comment section. In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that doing away with people, I'm watching my words, with intellectual disabilities violates the Eighth Amendment. But here's the problem. He doesn't have intellectual, right? I mean, he graduated with a master's degree. He was in a PhD program. He was working as a teaching assistant. He doesn't have an IQ below 70. He doesn't have what would be considered, to be intellectual disability. But let's continue on, because she's saying that hasn't included neurological disabilities. So she's even admitting that this has not included neurological disabilities such as autism. Now, I think, I'm not sure about this autism diagnosis. I think that, if this is really recent, it wasn't diagnosed at all in childhood, being that his mom was a special needs teacher. I don't know. What do you guys think? That hasn't included neurological disabilities such as autism, but Ann Taylor is arguing that it should, and that sentencing people with autism spectrum disorder to capital punishment is a violation of constitutional rights. All these motions, you guys, are making me think that there was an attempt at a plea deal, and that the prosecution either A, couldn't get all the family members on board and declined, B, said if it doesn't apply in this case, then when would it apply? Or C, Bryan Kohberger did not want to plead guilty to this crime. One of those three things, because the fact that she's, trying all of this, she says, adding that sentencing people with intellectual disability, I do think that autism spectrum disorder can have intellectual disabilities along with it. But there's nothing in Bryan Kohberger's, the fact that he has a master's degree and was in a PhD program and a teaching assistant, that's going to suggest to a jury, in my opinion, and to the judge also, let me know if you think differently, that Bryan Kohberger had intellectual disabilities. But she says sentencing people with intellectual disabilities creates a, quote, unacceptable risk of a wrongful doing away with someone, watching my words, because the defendants aren't as able to help in the mitigation part of their case. Now, he was a teaching assistant. So I think this second part is going to be something that the judge is going to say that he's perfectly capable to help in the mitigation part of his case. He was a criminology. He applied to work at the Pullman Police Department to teach law enforcement how to use technology to solve crimes. Let's continue on. Let me know if you think something different. It's okay. We don't all have to agree. We're not all going to agree on every single case. Then a year from now, we're going to be talking about another completely different case. And maybe if you don't agree with this one, you might agree with me on the next one. But this is just what I feel like the judge is probably going to do, just based on, the case law and also my opinion of how he's going to view Bryan Kohberger. I don't think anybody's going to look at this guy and say he's intellectually disabled. But let's continue on. She said specifically the courts have found defendants couldn't meaningfully assist in their attorneys. Their demeanor might give the unwarranted impression that they lack remorse, and they are typically poor witnesses. So I agree that he might give the impression that he lacks remorse and that he might be a poor witness. But I can understand that the jury might look at that. But to me, she could also tell the jury that she had him diagnosed with autism. She could let the jury know that. But, I don't think the judge is going to take this capital punishment off the table. I just don't. Regardless, Kohberger and Taylor says he displays, quote, extremely rigid thinking, lingers on specific topics, processes information on a piecemeal basis, and struggles to plan ahead, which affects their attorney-client relationship and ability to prepare for the trial. He also, quote, demonstrates little insight into his own behaviors and emotions, she added. You know who else doesn't have a lot of insight into their own behavior and emotions? Could be people who are psychopaths and sociopaths. And to be clear, people with autism don't lack empathy. They just have difficulty expressing it. They feel it. But sociopaths and psychopaths, in contrast, and remember, she doesn't want those words to be allowed to be used in the trial. They do lack empathy. So, I think the reason she doesn't want those two words in, this is just my opinion, speculation warning here. I think she doesn't want the words sociopath or psychopath because she wants to characterize him as having autism, and maybe he does. I'm not saying he doesn't, but she doesn't want the prosecution to be able to counter and say, well, she says he's autistic, and then put on their own expert that says, well, I think he's a sociopath. She continues, quote, no matter how helpful Mr. Kohberger may wish to be, it's simply not possible for him to aid in counsel in a way that someone without deficits accompanying autism spectrum disorder would be able to. Again, I think he's awkward. He may be oddly formal, but he's smart. He was able to, graduate with this master's degree. He was able to get a job as a teaching assistant at Washington State University. But I'm not saying he's not awkward, but he could also be awkward because he doesn't have any remorse or feelings, and because he has obsessive compulsive disorder. But his speech is awkward, Ann Taylor says, or said that his tone and cadence, this is the neuropsychologist, are abnormal. His interactions lack fluidity, and his language is often inclusive, disorganized, highly repetitive, and oddly formal, according to her filing. She says, he's easily distracted by sounds or activity, often needs questions repeated, and uses an abrupt, matter-of-fact phrases that could be considered rude. The filing said he also has exhibited compulsions of hand washing and other cleaning behaviors since childhood. Well, that's obsessive compulsive disorder. And that's a double-edged sword. In my opinion, she doesn't want the label obsessive compulsive disorder to be, to bring that in herself. I'm sure, I suspect the prosecution might. Because if have obsessive compulsive disorder, then you could become fixated on someone. Most people don't. It's hand washing and repetitive, but it could also be, somebody who becomes obsessed with another person. A lot of these people, in these cases that are in prison, you know, do become fixated on someone, and they're diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. If they do away with someone, then should that also be taken off the Berger's autism spectrum disorder will alienate him from the jury and significantly hamper his ability to make persuasive showings of innocence or mitigation. So she's worried, it sounds like, of what his affect, the way he expresses himself, and how that's going to play to the jury. I think she could just tell them that he got diagnosed with autism, and let them decide. The filing also points to two states. She points to Ohio and Kentucky that bar people from serious mental illness from being sentenced to DP, capital punishment. Serious mental illness, though, but autism isn't a mental illness. And neither of Ohio's or Kentucky, this is a Idaho Statesman newspaper saying this, not me. Neither Ohio's or Kentucky's laws apply to people with autism, instead listing diagnosis of schizophrenia. And schizophrenia is there because people with schizophrenia will have what's called command hallucinations, where they do things. Schizoaffective disorder, again, command hallucinations. Bipolar disorder, this would only be if the person has, hallucinations, which can come as bipolar during the manic phase of bipolar for people with extreme bipolar, and a delusional disorder. So these are the only exceptions in the two states that Ann Taylor is citing. So autism isn't even listed in Ohio and Kentucky. So that's why I don't think this is going to fly with the judge. But I can understand, she's worried of how the jury's going to perceive him. I think she's going to characterize him as having autistic. It does sound to me, in my opinion, and we're going to talk about the 911 call and the judge's new rulings next. So please stay with me. But in my opinion, I think she's um, wants to characterize him as being autistic. I think the reason she doesn't want the prosecution to be allowed to call him a sociopath or psychopath, or have those names used, is because they're going to characterize his behavior as sociopathic or psychopathic, and not characterize his behavior as being related to autism spectrum disorder. And again, I believe this is a new diagnosis that she just got for him. And and I'm not saying the diagnosis isn't true. This could all be true, but you can be autistic. And let me just share with you, in case you're autistic, or someone who's autistic, or this is going to somehow make you afraid of somebody who's autistic. People who are on the spectrum have no bigger of a chance of committing a crime like this, no greater of a chance of committing a crime like this than neurotypical people do. So I just want to put that out there. Most people who have autism don't go out and commit crimes like this. The other thing I want to just throw out there is that will create unwarranted impression of a lack of remorse. People with autism often engage in repetitive self-stimulating behavior, such as hand flapping, finger snapping, and body rocking. I've never seen him hand flap, finger snap, or body rocking. I think it's called stimming, right? A juror seeing the defendant engage in any of these behaviors while sitting at the counsel table during a murder trial would perceive the defendant as strange, out of control, and even disrespectful of a solemn proceeding. I've never seen him do those things, though. Have you? She added that the subtle indicators of autism could be just as damning for a capital defendant, if not more so. Quote, that's end quote. Inability to make eye contact could be interpreted as guilt or shame, while facial expressions contrary to the tone of the proceedings could be seen as cold or lacking remorse. And it could be that he's autistic and he looks cold and lacking remorse, because people who have autism feel empathy for other people. They have difficulty expressing it. But it could also be that he is cold or lacks remorse too. Both things could be true. She says that Bryan Kohberger specifically rocks his upper torso when listening to someone, has limited facial expressions, and exhibits atypical eye contact, such as intense gaze. She or observed during her evaluation, according to the filing. So that's the neuropsychologist. I don't know why I couldn't say that word. I'm so sorry. But while a lack of facial expression or abnormal eye contact are indicative of autism, said that to hundreds of thousands of online commentators who developed a cottage industry devoted to analyzing her client's every movement, these symptoms are a sure sign of his guilt. Well, that's what Ann Taylor thinks. Let me know what you think. Let's if you want me to dive more into that, but this is my take on that. So I think that, and we're going to talk about next, we're going to get into the new judges regarding secret filings. He's made some new rulings on that, and we're going to talk about the 911 call. We're going to do 911 call right here. But let me just check in with chat. Let me pull the next one up. Okay. We want to share this one next. Okay, let me just say hello to chat. I don't want to be rude and ignore chat. I'm really curious to get your take on all of this, you guys. This is a lot to unpack, and I didn't read the whole article to you. There's like lots more, but if you want to read it for yourself, what I can do is in the description. But it is the Idaho Statesman. I'll give you the name of the article, and it's titled, if you would like to read it, Bryan Kohberger has autism. His attorney said the diagnosis should remove the DP. Okay, that's the title of the article if you want to read it for yourself. Okay, so because there's more, but let me just check in with chat. Let's see. Okay. She's definitely trying. I want to say thank you to Pepper so much for doing a gifted channel membership. Thank you, Pepper. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Pam, for the $4.99 super sticker. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Pam. I will be putting that toward the computer fund. Thank you, Leslie, for the super sticker. I really appreciate this. This is really kind of you guys. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I have, it took me a few minutes to get to this. I do apologize. Sue Joyce putting it toward the computer fund. That's exactly where all of the super chats are going back into the channel. I need a second computer to air the trial for the Bryan Kohberger, but I also just am in need of a second computer. This one's starting to make some noises. I am starting to shop for one. Thank you, Michelle Bishop, for the £10 for the computer fund. Thank you so much, Michelle. This is really kind of you. And thank you, Orange Wedge, so much for the $4.99 super sticker. So thank you, all of you guys. I've started shopping for the computer, so I will be putting it toward the computer fund. So thank you for that. So let me just check in with chat, and let's see where we are. I'm like really behind on chat. Let's see. Juanita says, I agree that Ann Taylor is throwing everything at the wall to save him from the DP. In my opinion, he's not autistic because he's too smart to have the college education. He was jealous and turned that down. He could be, just because you have autism doesn't mean you're not smart, because now if you, people that were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome are also considered to be on the spectrum. But I think that she is, I agree with you. Wanting, and I just wonder if maybe there was a plea deal on the table. Now I'm wondering if maybe there was a plea deal on the table and maybe he's the one that turned it down. Is that possible? Maybe, or maybe she wanted to try for a plea deal and he turned it down. I agree with you, Pam. I do not think he is disabled intellectually. Hey, Brian, good to see you. Lucy Day, hi, welcome. Lucy says, doesn't high functioning autism also go high and hand in hand with an IQ? Elon Musk, etc. Yeah, and it used to be called Asperger syndrome, and now it's called. We're going to talk about the 911 call next. Brother Mike said they have to be able to use what's in me, but it sounds like what she's really worried about, you guys, is that she's worried that she wants death penalty taken off. Oh, sorry, I said it. Sorry. She wants capital punishment taken off. Sorry if you have little ones in the room. I do apologize. She wants capital punishment taken off because she doesn't want the jury. He feels like the jury is going to perceive him as weird. She already thought we were perceiving him as weird. And to be fair, a lot of us were. I thought he was weird. I'll just say that. I thought he came across as, just odd. But it could also be that he doesn't have feelings and that, he's, because he's a psychopath or sociopath. Let me know if you want me to delve more into that. So, Amy says she'll probably throw out that he's a white male. Brian says retired 3 decades mental health provider. Oh, love to see what your input is on this, Brian. Pam thinks Brian is going to take the stand. Not make it. That's what ethical mental health people do. And so you think Brian's going to take the stand. That's interesting. And Jess says autism is mainly poor social skills. That doesn't mean they're not intelligent. Exactly. People with autism just have poor social skills. They have difficulty expressing empathy, not feeling empathy. So when they've done scans like CT scans and MRI scans of people who have sociopathy and psychopathy and sociopathy, what they found is that their brains do not react to images in the way that other people's brains react. There's no compassion in a sociopathic, psychopathic brain scan. So I would be curious to know if she did do a brain scan on him and he did react with empathy to things that, ruled him out as a sociopath and a psychopath. But we don't know that. But the difference between somebody with autism, highly intelligent, and somebody with psychopath is that people with autism, even though they couldn't express it to you, their brains did react in a compassionate way on the MRI and CT scans. So that clearly shows that people with autism do feel compassion and empathy, even though they don't have the ability to express it sometimes. So, and also to maybe interpret yours. So I hope that helps. Did she say autism could get him sentenced? She wants to use that as a reason to not have him sentenced. And yes, she believes that it is. Brian says, in my opinion, autistic silly. Gail said, I think Brian comes up with a lot of these motions. It could be, and it could be why she's frustrated. She's describing him as rigid. So it could be that, she's having trouble working with him to prepare the defense. But that doesn't mean that he's autistic. It could just mean that he's sociopathic. I guess what I would like to know is was there a brain scan done? That's what I would like to know. And if there was, then maybe she's right. Gail thinks Brian comes up with a lot of these motions. Pam says he's too confident. Bryan's Ramblings says he performed academically awesome for 35 years. Yeah. Brother Mike says BK is a creep. I mean, maybe he looks creepy because he is creepy. Could that be possible? Put a 1 in the chat. Possible that he looks creepy because he is creepy. Put a 2 in the chat if you think that he looks creepy because he's autistic. Thank you, Princess Elsa, for giving this a thumbs up, and thank you so much. I do put a lot of time into before I go live. Then I had a whole nother show planned for you. Yesterday, when I finished researching, I had a complaint, and then all the stuff started breaking last night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to change my whole show. So I have a whole nother show prepared on top of this one, which I'm not going to do today, but I'll add it to breaking news. I'll just divide that up into breaking news. But I am going into the 911 call and the judge's rulings as soon as we're done here. So let's just see what you guys think. Oh, I just saw our other head mod, Amelia. Hey, this is our other head mod, 6 cents. Amelia, thank you for modding today. PJ's second chance says, I'm guessing he won't be speaking. I don't know. I think she's worried how the jury is going to perceive him because of how the public. That's why she wouldn't let the cameras be up close. We can only see the trial, these hearings from way far in the back because affect was weird. And maybe it is. Brian Trimley says mood disorder. DE said the problem with her is that she says that if it's just because you have autism doesn't mean you will unalive yourself. Yeah, and I think anybody that has somebody with autism in their family is going to be alarmed at this because it gives the impression like somebody with autism would just go and commit a crime like this and that somehow that's normal. It is not. Somebody with autism is no more likely to commit a crime like this than someone who is neurotypical. I just want to emphasize that because I don't want people with autism to be discriminated against. Michelle said, what about the white snow? He claimed he was viewing people as meat. Yeah, as a sack of meat. So is that autistic or is that sociopathic? Or because he was a minor, it would have been oppositional defiance disorder. Sue Joy says, is this doctor saying he's border incompetent? I don't think anybody's going to say he's border incompetent. Brian R says he has fired all male attorneys that were representing him. He's got a fantasy for Ann Taylor. I don't know. And Jess says that's right to you, Brian's ramblings. And Brian ramblings, what and Jess is responding to is silly acting out stuff. Right. And Brian's just sharing that bipolar is 5 flavors. Right. And most people who are bipolar don't have hallucinations, but some can. And so that's the exception. If somebody's got bipolar, Leslie said, I could see him as untreated bipolar. Juanita said, in my opinion, Bryan Kohberger tracked these girls and was rejected by 1 or more girls. BK was angry at rejection by the girls. He probably didn't count on having to encounter 4 people. Donna thinks it's recent. Okay, so I asked if you guys thought it was recent or not, and let's see if anybody answered me. I saw 1. Yeah, I got some responses. Let's share those, and then we're going to get on to the 911 calls next, and then the judge's orders after that. Hi, Zenab. Okay, Leslie put a 1. Lucy put a 1. Holly said he's not 35 years old. No, he's 30 years old. Welcome, Faith Kneist. 1 is creepy. Holly puts a 1. Auburn puts a 1. Marilyn puts a 1. Florence puts a 1. Wow, we got a lot of 1s. Orange Wedge. Enja says 1. Cherry 1. Brian 1. Elsa 1. Donna says, somehow I got disconnected. Oh, I'm sorry. Tara says this isn't grounds for him to get off, in her opinion. Michael he thinks Bryan Kohberger is just creepy. Penjam put a 1. PJ put a 1. Brian Jamley says Maddie's stepmom, Hat Rock, pleaded guilty to possession of an illegal substance. Yeah. But I don't think the families have anything to do with this. I don't want to drag the families. She pled guilty, And that's, I don't know if I really want to, I feel like the families, I don't know. I don't want to drag her mom. Um, I just want to be careful with that. These are victims' families. I just, they've been through a lot. And just as I have problems too, everything is freezing. Diana just says, my husband had Asperger's syndrome and was also, I don't see the rest of and was also, oh, I get it now. My husband had Asperger's syndrome and was also, thank you. 911 call for, all right, you ready for that? All right, let's do it. Tara says, do we have any medical proof this child is autistic prior to this court case? It looks like it was recent, in my opinion. Leighton says, now Ann Taylor comes up with autism. Yeah. Cindy says one. Orange Wood says, he seems like he would love to testify, in my opinion. That may be where, her frustration is that. All right. So let's get into the 911 call. And then we're going to get into new rulings from the judge. Okay. So, we know that, I don't want to go into this part. This just talks about Dylan and Bethany and that she was asleep on the second floor. We already know this. Which talks about the TikTok, and that's why I think that TikTok app was put in a search warrant. But let's go through the 911 call. Oh no, don't tell me. I've just pulled up the wrong one. Hold on one second. Hold on. Hold on. My bad. Oh. I think I just. Okay. Hold on. I just lost what I was going to pull up. All right. I think I got it. Thanks for waiting here with me, guys. Nope, I don't have it. All right, let me go through with my notes. All right, so let's just. So Dylan told law enforcement in one of her interviews that she thought that the intruder was a fireman. Not sure why she thought that, and so maybe she thought that there was a strange man in the house because there was a fireman in the house. She admits to having a history of scary lucid dreams where she couldn't decipher her own dreams from what the truth was. So let's talk about the night. So I think the 911 call goes back to we heard that people were saying that somebody passed out, right? And I think that it was characterized that way because during that if they have multiple callers or people sound stressed, I don't think anybody actually was passed out. We won't find out till the trial, but I think the 911 call was characterized that way. I wanted to show you receipts on this, but that's okay. But I think that it was characterized as an unconscious person because I think that that's how 911, if they have a confused call to save time because they're shorthanded in that area, that what they will characterize it as an unconscious person, and that's just like their go-to on that. So that's what I think happened. And so what I think happened on that day was I believe that like I shared with you earlier, that Ethan's friends showed up. They had tried calling him on the cell phone. Obviously, Ethan didn't answer. Bethany answered the door when Ethan's friends came to the door because they were looking for him. And then from there, I think that they did go upstairs, and we know Bethany's phone was used to place the 911 call. So a lot of people have said, why did the roommates wait 8 hours to place the 911 call? People came over to clean up. They had their friends over. It wasn't their friends that came over. It was Ethan's friends that came over looking for Ethan that day. They were looking for Ethan that day, and they had tried to call him on his cell phone. He wasn't answering. They knocked on the door, and I don't know if the door was already open. And they knocked on Bethany's door, because we've heard reports that the front door was open that day. Or if they knocked on it even though the door was open, I don't know. And maybe the door was open at that point, and that's what open. But they went upstairs. Bethany let them in, and they went upstairs and came across the crime scene. They immediately grabbed Bethany's cell phone, and I don't know if they left their cell phone in the car or just didn't have their cell phone on them, but grabbed her cell phone and placed the call. So we got this weird report that the 911 call came from an unconscious person. But in Moscow, Idaho, because they're short-staffed, that is their go-to. They will call it in as an unconscious person in that area if there is more than one person that gets on the phone and talks to them, or if things sound confused or flustered. I would imagine that in this case, people would have sounded very confused, very flustered. So that is the reason that we got the 911 call in that way. So now let's talk about Judge Hippler and his latest ruling. All right, let me go through this. This is very, very interesting. Okay. So he's telling them to stop being so secretive. So Ann Taylor's super secret characterization, in my opinion, I think she annoyed the judge. Let me know if you think something different. Let me move myself over here so I'm not blocking your view. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see everything and I'm not in the way. Okay, so let's talk about this next. All right, so the judge has come out. Oh, he has a lot to say. He has a lot to say. I'm sorry, I was going to go into more on the 911 call, and I will on a future one, but for now, let's just keep going. Okay, so he warned the attorneys to quit filing so many secret documents in this case. He says that defense attorneys and prosecutors are making secrecy the norm rather than the exception. He wrote this out in his order. He said, quote, "This runs counter First Amendment right to know what's going on in its courts." I agree. I think I think it's great that he feels like this. I'm here for this. Now, his directive came as a flurry of new motions that were filed ahead of the August trial. So let's hear what else he had to say on this. So he stated he had a lot to say. Let's go through this. He said that he said the party's pervasive practice of filing material under seal in this case has become the norm rather than the exception. Rather than seeking to redact discrete, sensitive information, entire documents are filed under seal. And I agree. And they're titled in such a way that ends up becoming the news. And that could be misinformation in and of itself, right? In addition, much of the material the parties seek to seal is already in the public, is simply not confidential or sensitive. This is Judge Hippler speaking, not me. The judge stated that Bryan Kohberger's defense team and state prosecutors can still have certain information, such as names of witnesses and the victim's family members, redacted. However, He will also allow documents to be filed under seal if the sealing is justified under Idaho Court Administration Rule 32, which governs documents that are exempt from public disclosure. He continued, the parties must also seek the least restrictive method to protect information that should be or is exempt from disclosure. For example, despite the court's concern being expressed previously, the state continues to seek broad orders sealing entire documents to protect the identity of individuals rather than simply using initials or requesting that a redacted version be made public that discloses only initials. He said, quote, this runs counter to the public's First Amendment rights to know. And I applaud this because we did not have transparency in the Delphi case, in my opinion. He said it runs counter to the public's First Amendment rights to know what is going on in its courts. He ordered that attorneys use the least restrictive steps necessary to protect confidential information in the name, such as redacting some lines or using initials instead of the person's full name. So he emphasized that the court will look with scrutiny at any request to seal documents. Wow. He advised that both prosecution, this is a different judge. Judge John Judge in Latah County wasn't letting us see anything. I think Ann Taylor, let me know what you think. Did Ann Taylor get more than she bargained for? I mean, she got some good things from moving the trial, right? She got some good things from moving it from Latah County to Idaho County. She gets a bigger city, which may have a more liberal jury, less likely to want to impose capital punishment. She got a new judge, so she got to redo all of the IgG DNA stuff and all the stuff that she had already argued with Judge John Judge in Latah County. She got another bite at the apple. But in my opinion, she got a tougher judge. He's not going to put, I think her super secret characteristics, after he knows that it was the defense that filed the motion, you don't want to make the judgment. I think he thought it was disingenuous to repeatedly describe something as super secret, secretive, secrecy, big secret, like she did in that hearing with him. And that was the one where we had that closed door hearing that we couldn't see like 5.5 or 6 hours, when it was her and the defense team that requested that everything be sealed to protect Bryan's right to a fair trial. So now he's like, you know what? There's nothing super secret about this. If you want to, you can redact. If you want to redact something, you can redact it. You can put initials in there, but the public has a right to see it. So he emphasized that the court, that's him, will look with scrutiny at any request so no more super secret claims, while you at the same time have been the one that put the motion in to have all of this information sealed. He advised that both the prosecution and defense teams to focus on redacting documents instead of sealing them completely. He also highlighted the importance of both sides adhering closely to Idaho law, which allows access. It allows public access to records. So this ruling comes after a motion filed by Bryan Kohberger's lawyer, so Ann Taylor, who requested the court redact or seal newly filed records. So after she requested that they redact or seal the newly filed records, he put this motion out. No, I'm not doing that. Because in private, she's putting motions for him to seal everything to protect Bryan's right to a fair trial. While in public, she's claiming everything is super secret. And I think this is where you maybe don't want to irritate the judge, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. I thought the super secret was crazy. I made a video of super secret. And you watch the whole clip, the whole thing. I think she says it over 20 times. Secret, secrecy, super secret, big secret, repeatedly. And I think she irritated the judge. That's my opinion. Let me know if you have a different one in the comment section below. So this comes after a motion by her. So Bryan Kohberger's lawyers, that's Ann Taylor, who requested the court redact or seal newly filed records. And they also sought to remove the possibility of capital punishment. And he's like, "Mm-mm. You can redact names, you can redact initials, but we're not doing this." So on the next live stream, I wanted to dig more into the Papa Roger inside looking today. That was the plan, because I wanted to talk about how other people who commit crimes like this have used media, mainstream media, in the past to interact with law enforcement. But I just don't I have to go over right now to a live stream on the Sebastian Rogers case over there. We're going to have a really good live stream on that. Just let me please say thank you to our producers, and Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown Pepper, and Lisa Fazio. Thank you so much to all our channel members. If you would like to have your name appear just like this in all of my videos, you can hit the join button, which is next to the subscribe button. Please consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. And I will do another whole live stream. Hit the notification bell too, you guys, because there's going to be a lot of information coming forward. And then also, thank you so much. This is super thanks and coffee gratitude for all of your super thanks, your super chats. And thank you so much for your gifted channel memberships, you guys. All right, so follow me over to Sebastian Rogers. We're going right into that. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you for stopping by to spend a little bit of time with me. And I will see you on the next Bryan Kohberger live stream.